Since its release, Team Fortress 2 has set the standard for class-based shooters, capturing a massive fan base with its chaotic humor, charismatic characters, and unmistakable gameplay. But if you've already spent hundreds of hours pushing carts and defending control points, it might be time to try something fresh without losing that classic essence. The shooter market is filled with incredible new titles that capture exactly that same energy. Get your mouse ready, because if you are passionate about TF2, we have selected 10 new games that you need to check out today. I'm Matthew, and let's get into it. If you love Team Fortress 2, Lambda Fortress is the kind of mod that hits right in the nostalgia, but without feeling like a mere repetition of what you already know. It takes the TF2 mercenaries and drops them straight into the universe of Half-Life 2 and other source-based campaigns, creating a mix that sounds completely crazy on paper, but makes perfect sense once you see it in action. The result is an experience that maintains the chaos, humor, and identity of TF2, but within a much more different and unexpected. Instead of just being another game mode, Lambda Fortress attempts to transform entire campaigns into a cooperative and replayable experience, both in single-player and multiplayer. You can advance through classic source maps using the TF2 mercenaries, which completely shifts the vibe of the adventure. It is the kind of idea that feels tailor-made for anyone who always wanted to see these characters in another scenario, without losing the feeling of playing something with personality. Another strong point is that the mod does not want to stay trapped in the basics. It features support for various campaigns and map packs, alongside new weapons, future editions, and Steam Workshop integration. The support for the TF2 inventory also stands out, as it helps bring a sense of continuity with the original game into the mod, making it feel as though your items have truly gained a new life outside of traditional matches. In practice, this makes Lambda Fortress a very special experience for those who enjoy the humor and strategic mess of Team Fortress 2, but want something different from classic 2-Fort or Payload. It is a way to revisit familiar characters in a new context, featuring cooperation, exploration, and combat across iconic source campaigns. For me, the great charm lies precisely in this mix between familiarity and novelty. You recognize TF2 instantly, but everything around it feels turned upside down. If you enjoy TF2 and always wanted to see the mercenaries in a cooperative adventure out of the norm, this is a name that genuinely deserves attention.
Everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Valve took that unmistakable Team Fortress 2 DNA, the classes with personality, the dark humor, the character design that tells a story just by its silhouette, and shoved it all into a 6v6 third-person shooter MOBA set in an alternate occult steampunk 1940s New York called Cursed Apple. It isn't TF3, and it doesn't try to be. It's as if the heavy, the medic, and the spy fell into a forbidden ritual with Dota 2 and Overwatch. And the result was something strangely new. Yet, with that made by Valve smell we recognize from a mile away. What won me over immediately was how they translated the concept of a class into a hero format without losing its soul. You don't just choose a kit of abilities, you choose a personality. There's Abrams, this tank detective, who charges in with punches and parries, a bit like Heavy meets Doomfist, but with a stamina mechanic that demands game sense, not just aim. There is Vindicta, a sniper with an ultimate that traps the target in time, sort of like Sniper meets Faceless Void. And the coolest part, each hero has their own soul, with voice lines, motivations, and interactions that recall those TF2 voice lines we used to memorize. Only now with the lore depth of Dota 2. You feel like you are piloting a character, not just a loadout. The match structure is where the genius and madness appears. 4 lanes, zip lines cutting across the map, creeps that drop souls, the game's currency, guardians, walkers, shrines, and finally the patrons. 2 giants you need to summon and protect while trying to kill the enemies. It sounds complex on paper, but in practice, it flows with that push and pull cadence that anyone who played competitive TF2 knows well. You advance, trade damage, retreat to farm, buy items at the base shop or lane shops, and return stronger. The loop of souls plus items plus ability progression within the match replaces TF2's random crits and metal/health packs with real tactical decisions. And man, is it addictive. Visually, it is a punch to the gut. Valve took the Art Deco/steampunk aesthetic of BioShock, mixed it with the grotesque humor of TF2, and gave it a polish in Source 2 that makes the game run smoothly, even with 12 heroes triggering ultimates at the same time. The animations have weight, projectiles have travel time, the rewards prediction, and the melee, my god, the melee, has parries, heavy attacks, cancels. It has fighting game depth shoved into a MOBA. And the Street Brawl mode, a 4v4 in a single lane, best of 5, is perfect for testing a new hero without committing to a 40-minute match. If you liked Team Fortress 2, FragPunk is a game that deserves to be on your radar because it takes the chaotic energy of a hero shooter and transforms it into something much more unpredictable. It was released on March 6th, 2025. It is free to play, and it was developed by Bad Guitar Studio and published by NetEase Games. What catches your attention right away is that it doesn't want to be just another competitive FPS. It bets on its own identity based on characters, a fast pace, and matches that change constantly. The main differentiator of FragPunk is the shard cards. Cards that break the rules of the match and ensure that no round is identical to the previous one. In practice, this means the game constantly forces you to adapt your strategy, aim, and positioning in the middle of chaos, which highly resonates with those who enjoy the sense of unpredictability and fun mess that TF2 always provided. For me, this is the type of system that might seem absurd at first, but it is exactly what gives the game its personality. Another point that makes FragPunk interesting for TF2 fans is the roster of characters, called Lancers, each with their own abilities and different roles within the team. This creates that dynamic of learning characters, understanding synergies, and playing with a collective mindset, rather than just running around shooting. If you liked picking a class in TF2 and mastering its quirks, there is a similar charm here, but within a more modern and competitive structure. It is also worth noting that FragPunk blends hero shooter elements with tactical shooting, so it sits in a very curious middle ground between frenetic action and planning. It is not exactly the same type of experience as TF2, but it has that same appeal of understanding the game to truly enjoy it, along with a colorful visual style and a rhythm that favors short, intense matches. For me, this makes it an excellent next step for those who want something fresh without completely abandoning the essence of a team-based hero game. I see FragPunk as a very solid option for anyone who loved Team Fortress 2 and wants a current game that still possesses personality, chaos, and its own identity. It does not try to copy TF2, and that is precisely why it works so well as a recommendation. It takes the concept of unpredictable matches and teamwork, but packages it all into a fresh, fast, and surprise-filled experience. If you are looking for a fresh, free-to-play FPS with the profile of a game that still has plenty of room to grow, FragPunk is a name highly worth knowing. Out of Action is a PvP FPS by Doku Games in early access since January 22nd, 2026, and it blends fast movement, cinematic combat, and build crafting in a brutal cyberpunk world, inspired by 90s anime. And what stands out the most is precisely that. It does not want to be just another stylish shooter. It wants to make you play with intention, rhythm, and personality. What I find most interesting about Out of Action is that it seems to capture that chaotic and fun energy that many people love in Team Fortress 2, but pushes everything in a more modern and technical direction. Instead of focusing solely on aiming and shooting, the game relies heavily on skill-based movement, deep progression, and the freedom to build your own playstyle. This gives you that satisfying feeling that each match can turn into a slightly different short story depending on how you fit your resources, your movement, and your weapon mastery together. Visually, it also possesses a strong identity. The cyberpunk setting with a dark 90s anime aesthetic gives the game a very distinct charm, the kind that catches your eye and stays in your memory. And this matters a lot because shooters with visual personality end up being much easier to remember than those games that look recycled from the same generic shelf. Here, you can feel that there is a clear artistic vision behind the project, and this helps the game stand out amid so many FPS titles out there. Another point that makes the game even more intriguing is that it does not limit itself to online play. In addition to PvP, it also offers a replayable offline mode, which is great for those who want to test mechanics, learn the flow of combat, or simply enjoy the game without competitive pressure. Furthermore, based on what has been shared, the development has been growing with significant community attention, featuring updates to its scope, substantial interest, and a project that refined its proposition over time. This conveys the feeling of a game that is still finding its footing, but already possesses a very strong foundation. Ultimately, Out of Action seems to be exactly the type of game that those who love Team Fortress 2 need to watch closely. It has style, identity, a focus on skill, and that kind of organized chaos that keeps every confrontation interesting. It is not a TF2 clone, nor should it be. It takes the idea of a character with presence and memorable combat, but translates it into a heavier, more tactical, and more modern experience. If you like shooters with a soul, this one has everything to join your list of favorites. If you are one of those who still has Team Fortress 2 in your blood and loves that chaotic multiplayer vibe, but with characters full of personality, you need to check out Veiled Experts. This game is a free-to-play, third-person tactical shooter developed by Nexon Games, and it takes everything we love about team shooters and throws it into a blender with special abilities and absurdly fluid movement. What I liked was the roster of agents, each with their own skills and parkour movements that make you feel like an anime spy running across walls. You can roll, climb obstacles, and use Leptin abilities that add an extra layer of strategy without taking the focus away from your aim. It is that mix of each character plays differently that reminds me of the charm of TF2 classes, but with a more modern and tactical touch. Now, what makes each match unpredictable is the magnetic field that constantly shrinks the map, forcing everyone out of hiding to actually fight. Additionally, scanning grenades and the destructive environment make you rethink your positioning every single second. The bomb defusal mode is the heart of the game, but it evolves in a way where the map literally changes as the bomb explodes, so no two rounds feel the same. Between rounds, you have a shop to adjust your loadout, which means you cannot just go on autopilot. You need to adapt your strategy, analyze what the opposing team is doing, and craft a response on the fly. It features 3v3 modes, 5v5 modes, team deathmatch, and even a mode against AI so you can practice without stress or jump straight into the competitive carnage. Best of all, it is available on Steam in early access, completely free of charge. Veiled Experts arrived at the perfect moment for anyone who missed a team shooter with personality but wanted something that brought new mechanics to the table. It respects what the classics built, but is not afraid to innovate with free movement, character abilities, and dynamic maps. If you enjoy TF2, give this one a chance, because its organized chaos has a style that I know you will recognize and enjoy.
But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be? And do you believe you can do anything? But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?
Time Takers is a team-based third-person survival shooter developed by Mistel Games and published by Insoft, scheduled for release within 2026 with a focus on online matches. What hooks me the most about Time Takers is the concept of time as the primary resource. Instead of treating health like a standard bar, the game forces you to collect temporal energy to survive, upgrade abilities, assist allies, and decide on the spot whether it is worth more to become stronger or save resources for the team. This creates a highly effective tension because every decision feels like it has real weight, and I really like games that force you to think while the action keeps exploding on the screen. Another strong point is that it does not operate with fixed classes, meaning your playstyle changes significantly based on the weapons, abilities, and build choices you make during the match. This reminds me a bit of the freedom that makes games like TF2 so addictive. You learn the character, understand the team's rhythm, and adjust your way of playing until you find your own identity. Here, however, this flexibility seems even more open because the game wants you to adapt constantly. I also find it interesting that Time Takers was designed for fast, intense, and highly cooperative matches, focusing on trio coordination and the strategic use of time to revive, empower, or keep the team alive. Instead of relying solely on aim, it rewards situational awareness, timing choices, and risk management, which can be great for those who enjoy that feeling of it almost went wrong, but the team saved it at the last second. For me, this type of tension is what makes a multiplayer game memorable. I see Time Takers as a very strong recommendation for those who loved Team Fortress 2, but want something newer with its own distinct style. It does not try to copy TF2. It takes the idea of team combat with a strong identity and transforms it into a game where time is literally your life, your power, and your chance to win. If the idea of a free, frenetic, and strategic shooter excites you, this is a name highly worth keeping track of.
Shit my way, so you can go kick rocks. I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way, so you can go kick rocks. I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
If you are one of those who still has Team Fortress 2 in your heart and loves that multiplayer chaos where every character has a ton of personality, pay attention, because Birds of War might be exactly what you didn't know you needed. This game was born from a viral AI-generated meme at the end of 2025, but the team at Hexnest Games in Melbourne looked at it and said, all right, we are going to make this actually happen. They basically took the AI's concept and turned it into a real multiplayer game with over 30,000 wish lists on Steam and a community that grew absurdly fast. Now, what is this game? Imagine a competitive shooter, except instead of soldiers, you are a bird. It is a third-person aerial PvP in a 3v3v3 format, where 3 teams of 3 birds each fight to steal eggs from enemy nests and defend their own. The combat is melee-based, fast, chaotic, and entirely focused on aerial movement. You fly through vertical terrains, invade nests, grab eggs, and try to bring them home while the other teams do the exact same thing to you. No match is the same because everything is so dynamic that you cannot simply hold a position and wait. What reminds me of Team Fortress 2 here is how each bird plays completely differently, just like the classic TF2 classes. You have the hummingbird, which is pure speed and damage, perfect for hit and run tactics and chasing down weakened enemies. The crow is the stealthy assassin, with invisibility lasting 8 seconds and a charge attack that deals massive damage, ideal for flanking. The shoebill is the team's tank, featuring a shield that absorbs damage and protects allies, along with a headbutt that stuns and throws enemies into ragdoll physics. And there is the pigeon, which serves as the support, revealing enemies through walls for the entire team and applying an area of effect slow. Each has distinct abilities and its own style, so choosing who you will play completely changes the match. And speaking of ragdolls, the physics in this game are hilarious. Every hit, collision, and death generates unique and absurd moments that seem tailor-made to become clips. But what truly defines the personality of Birds of War is the unfiltered proximity voice chat. Your microphone is always on, and when you get close to enemies, they can hear you. This means you can troll, taunt, deceive, or coordinate with your friends while trying to steal the other team's egg. The game is being built in Unreal Engine 5, will be free to play with early access priced at around $5, and monetization is strictly cosmetic with no competitive advantage. What I enjoyed most seeing all this is that the developers completely embraced the idea that a multiplayer game needs to be fun first, competitive second. They even encourage content creators to record, stream, and monetize without restrictions. So if you miss those team games where you laugh while yelling at your friends, Birds of War has that same soul that made Team Fortress 2 last so long. Except here, you are a chaotic bird flying through the sky and stealing eggs. Go to Steam and add it to your wish list because this title shows immense potential. Super Squad is an online multiplayer title from Bad Fox Studios that mixes RTS with MOBA, delivering a cartoonish and frenetic combat proposition where the goal is to assemble an efficient team and destroy the enemy side. The most interesting aspect is that it does not try to be a conventional shooter, and that already places it in a curious position for those who like to experiment with games that have their own identity. What catches my attention in Super Squad is this feeling of commanding a small piece of organized chaos. Instead of relying solely on pure aim, the game places significant weight on tactics, teamwork, and quick reflexes, featuring characters with well-defined roles and distinct abilities. This recalls the appeal of TF2 in the sense that each role truly matters, except here the experience is viewed from a top-down perspective, offering a more strategic reading of the battlefield. Visually, it also possesses a highly distinct charm. The premise is entirely built around cartoonish combat, featuring a wild multiverse of maps and themes, ranging from urban bases to space colonies, pirate ships, and even more absurd and humorous scenarios. This type of variety helps greatly in giving the game personality, as it does not look like a project stuck in a single visual fantasy. It feels like something that wants to surprise you constantly just through its mix of settings and tone. Another cool point is that the game was designed to feature unlockable content, new modes, maps, and troopers added over time, alongside support for the competitive scene. This is important because it shows an intention to keep the game alive and evolving, and for those who like to follow games with an active community, this type of structure makes a difference. Even being a project with a more niche appeal, you can feel there is ambition to create a long-lasting and replayable experience. If you liked Team Fortress 2, Splitgate Arena Reloaded is a game that is highly worth your attention because it takes the essence of the classic arena shooter and delivers it in a modern, fast, and free-to-play package. It was released on May 22nd, 2025 by 1047 Games, bringing back the feeling of arena combat with fast-paced matches and a total focus on skill. What attracts me most to it is that the game tries to be direct and to the point. No factions, no abilities, and no excessive systems getting in the way of the gunplay, at least in the current proposition highlighted by the official materials themselves. This reminds me of the reason why many people fall in love with TF2. It is not just about shooting, it is about rhythm, positioning, and finding your own way to play within the chaos. But the big difference, and what makes Splitgate feel fresh despite already being released, is the use of portals. They completely change the way you think about maps, escapes, attacks, and space control. Because you are never just running and shooting, you are creating impossible angles and opening up plays that other shooters simply do not allow. For me, this gives the game a very strong identity, the kind that makes you remember it after turning off the PC. Another point that helps a lot is the variety of content. The Arena Reloaded version highlights 20 arenas, classic competitive modes like Team Deathmatch, King of the Hill, and Domination, alongside lighter modes like Gun Game and Shoddy Snipers. There is also Arena Royale, a battle royale approach more focused on action and less on looting, which fits well for those who want more intense matches and less downtime. It does not try to copy Valve. It takes the concept of team combat with a high skill ceiling and places it on top of a portal mechanic that changes everything. If your desire is to play an FPS that still delivers that feeling of discovery, mastery, and absurd plays, this is a name that deserves to join your list. Team Waifu is creating a game that takes that essence of each character plays differently and throws it into a blender with absurd mobility, team chaos, and an anime aesthetic that features much more substance than it appears. WTF Waifu Tactical Force is a first-person tactical FPS with vertical movement, wall running, sliding, and double jumping, and it is arriving in early access in 2027. What reminded me of TF2 here was how the combat is built around operators with distinct personalities and abilities, just like our classic TF2 classes. Each waifu has her own style, her own tools, and a unique way to impact the match. Except instead of a heavy with a minigun, you might be piloting a mech after accumulating streaks or using a dash and force field to create opportunities for the team. Matches are fast and vertical 3v3s where the team that moves better wins. And this energy strongly recalls that feeling of playing TF2 when everything goes right and the team functions like clockwork. Movement is the heart of the game. You don't stand still waiting for someone to appear in your crosshairs. You are constantly wall running, sliding across the ground, and utilizing the map in 3 dimensions. This reminds me of the freedom we felt in TF2 with a flying soldier or a running scout, except here everyone has access to mobility tools right from the start. And the visuals are pure 2000s anime charm, featuring heart and kitten-shaped crosshairs, which provides a lightness that contrasts with the tactical shooting itself. It is chaotic, but chaotic on purpose, just like a good match of 204. Outside of matches, there is a layer of progression that TF2 never had. You earn resources and XP to build your mother base, which acts almost like a visual novel-style life simulator. There, you strengthen bonds with the operators, unlocking new weapons, perks, abilities, and skins. And what I enjoyed most, the developers explicitly stated that they will not fill the game with battle passes or intrusive FOMO. It is progression that respects your time, where you shoot to build to improve, and improve to dominate. This gives me hope that the longevity of the game will come from the gameplay, not from monetization engines. WTF. Waifu Tactical Force is for those who want a team shooter with a soul, where every match counts and every character has charm. It is not a copy of TF2, but it understands what made TF2 work. Memorable characters, controlled chaos, and that feeling that you are playing something that does not take life too seriously. The playtest has already shown that the netcode is solid, featuring dedicated servers, and early access is right ahead. If you are a fan of Team Fortress 2, put this on your Steam wishlist, because this mix of tactical shooting, mobility, and operators with personality might be exactly what we were waiting for without knowing it. In the end, I see WTF Waifu Tactical Force as a very curious recommendation for anyone who loved Team Fortress 2 due to character identity, mobility, and the organized chaos of matches. Except here, everything comes seasoned with anime, a base of your own, collection progression, and a tactical layer that goes beyond simply joining and shooting. It is a game that seems to want to win you over with style, but stay in your mind through its structure. And for me, that is already a good sign that it is worth following closely.